Okay, sorry I can't be in class today. Hopefully the football team's playing well and right, and we're coming home with a win. But just wanted to be able to go over the warm-up with you real quick since this is your last day of independent practice before you take the quiz on Friday. Let's go through these examples that you should already have completed on your desk. First example is a -7 minus 15. Remember we said to subtract any number, we're going to add the opposite. That means I want to keep the first number the same. I'm still going to see that -7. Subtraction becomes addition, and then I need the opposite of the second number. In this case, the opposite of 15 is -15. So you really should end up with a -7 plus -15. Then I ask myself, are they coming together or battling? Hopefully you see that they are coming together. They have the same sign, so I want to find their sum. And in this case, it looks like their sum would be 22. But since they're both negative, we'd have a -22. That takes care of 1A on the board for your warm-up. As far as the next one, 10 minus 35. Again, to subtract any number, add the opposite. So 10 stays the same. We're going to add the opposite of 35, which in this case would be a -35. Again, I ask myself, are they coming together or battling? The 10 is positive, the 35 is negative. That means they're battling. So I ask myself, who's going to win? Because -35 has a larger absolute value, I would say the negatives will win. So I know my answer is going to be a negative. Then I need to ask myself how much they're going to win by. I need to find their difference since they have different signs. The difference between 35 and 10 is 25. So my answer would be a -25. That takes care of B. Next one becomes very simple if you remember Mr. Bartlett's trick to add the opposite. So rewrite this problem using addition. 9 plus the opposite of -15, which is 15. Now you see they're both positive. We're adding, and 9 plus 15 is 24. So that problem's pretty simple if we add the opposite. Last one on number 1, -8 minus a -11. Again, should get used to this by now. Add the opposite. In this case, add a +11. Are they coming together battling? They are battling. Looks like the positives are going to win, and the difference between 11 and 8 is 3. Should get a +3 on 1D. That takes care of the first 4 problems. Now you'll see the next 2 I went a little longer. They're a little bigger. You might see something like this on your quiz, and you'll see it on the second assignment that you pick up today. What I'm going to do, rewrite this problem exactly as I see it with the addition problems, but then every time I see subtraction, I'm going to change that subtraction to adding the opposite. So notice I have a -8. Instead of -8, I'm going to add a -8. Now we have those same tricks that we remember from before. Add up all your negatives together first, then add up your positives, and then combine them. A -15 and a -8 make a -23. Then I have a +10. They're battling. The negatives are going to win. I need to know by how much. The difference between 23 and 10 is 13. So we end up with a -13 for 2A on your warm-up. B is a longer problem. Notice I have -4 minus a -6 plus 9 minus 11. Again, rewrite it as you see it by adding the opposites. We're subtracting a -6. I'm going to change that to adding a +6. Since we're adding 9, I'm just going to leave it the same. But again, I'm subtracting 11. So instead of subtracting 11, I'll add the opposite. When we do this, we can combine our negatives. I have a -4 and a -11. That makes -15. And then I have a +6 and a +9. That makes +15. The third rule for adding integers we took on for notes, any number plus its opposite always equals 0. So that takes care of those first 6 problems where it's just numbers. On the last 3, definitely want to look at your notes to help you with change. The key word is change. Anytime we see change, we're going to take that second value, that second number, and we're going to subtract the first number from that. That's what we did on notes yesterday with Joe Bob's weight and everything else. Second number minus first to find the change. So in this case, the climber rose or climbed from 1,250 up to 2,100. Second number, the 2,100 where he is now, minus the first where he was or where he began. Might have to remember some of your rules for borrowing. That 0 would become a 10 because we borrowed from the 1. Have to borrow again. This becomes a 10. We end up with 850. If it's a word problem, when I want change, I got to have a label. So this is 850 feet. The reason it's a positive, he went up. He was climbing up, so we would expect a positive answer. On the next example, you notice we have a diver that's diving from a platform 30 feet above. So maybe I'll draw my platform. Here's my platform above, and here's the water down below. This platform is 30 feet above the water, and when my diver dives in, there's my wonderful diver, when she dives in, she's actually going to end up 12 feet below. So thinking about below the water, what kind of number is that 12 feet below? If it's below, that second number is actually going to be a -12. The first number, where she started from, was 30 feet above, which would be a +30. Take the second number minus the first. So we have -12 minus 30. To subtract any number, we can add the opposite. Notice they're coming together. 12 plus 30 is 42, and they're both negative, so my answer would be a negative 42 feet. Why that makes sense, if you look over my drawing, she went down 30 feet, then she went down another 12. So negative 30 plus 12, negative 12 more, gives you an answer of negative 42 feet. Last example, finding the change in field position from the 25-yard line to the 17-yard line. Second number minus the first. This is where they are now. This is where they were. Second number, 17, minus the first number, 25. To subtract any number, add the opposite, and you should notice that they are battling. The negatives will win by 8. We're talking about yards there. And again, this makes sense that it's a negative because they lost yards. And when I lose something, that's a negative. That's your warm-up. You now have 3 assignments that you'll be working on throughout the day. The first one is from what you got yesterday. That yesterday's assignment should be done first, checking the key as you go. The next assignment is on my desk. There are actually 2 assignments for you to work on today. The first one just says adding, subtracting integers up at the top. The key is on the board for that. And then finally, we have the lesson 3 homework practice. So 3 different things to be working on today. It's your last day of independent practice. Make sure you're working hard. Make sure you're checking your answers, and make sure you're paying attention, because on Friday, we'll see what you know with the quiz. If you have any questions, talk to each other, ask Mrs. Goodart, and be working hard. Thanks, guys.